Hello, 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 and welcome to Life Coaching on the podcast channel Emotional Response. This is Life Coaching with Inc. Ivory. Hello, hello, and welcome everyone that is listening. I'm excited. Because each time we tap into a new topic, we grow and we become better. And every time I bring a special guest on, I learn so much more than meets the eye. I really learn and grow as an individual because, like I tell y'all all the time, you never want to estimate yourself to know everything. And so there's someone out there that can teach you so much more that you don't know. And so as we continue this series on love, we're tapping in tonight on love is not pain. And I'm excited. She's an Instagram friend and she is a spoken word poet. I would like to introduce Michelle Mosley, the poet.
Hi, hello.
Hey, Michelle, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to be speaking to you tonight and your audience. I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited too. Just talking and educating people on love is not pain, I think is very key.
Yes.
Okay, so the reason why I'm bringing Michelle on is because she is going to share her story as well as give insight. This is going to be a dialogue as usual, and she's going to share her expertise on knowing the experiential side of love and not just theoretical. You could pick up a book and read any fairy tale. You could pick up a book and read not pick up a book. You could turn on any TV or any radio and listen to a sad love song and distinguish real love from fake love and pain from something that really brings you joy. And we are privileged to have Michelle Mosley on here to speak and share her story. Michelle?
So when I heard about the topic, love is not pain, I automatically thought about myself and what I had struggled with and where I'm at right now. A lot of people do not know. I share through my poetry a little bit, but a lot of people do not know my story that are even close to me, that know me personally. I've never openly, outside of my poetry and outside of my own podcast, really talked about what I went through. For 3 years of my life, I was involved with a pimp. I was involved with a man that I thought loved me, but it turned into an abusive relationship. Probably a week afterwards. After I became serious with him and I moved in with him, it became abusive. And looking back on it, I started asking myself, how was I able to put up with that for 3 years? There were times where I was beat with the belt. There were times I was choked. And at the same time, I was also asked to work for an escort service, to basically sell my body, sell my time to be with this man. And what would make someone who used to be a supervisor, come from a loving family, worked in the casino on table games, made a lot of money, what would make that person go so low to where they would get involved with somebody like that? And I just believe that it's because I did not value myself. I did not understand what love was. So therefore, I could not ask someone to love me properly or distinguish that love and pain are two different things, because I did not love myself. And that's where I'm at now with it. It's the journey that I'm on now, is reclaiming my own self-love. So if I'm ever put in a situation where someone is hurting me or not showing me love, I will be able to recognize it right away and know what it is and know, listen, this is not a good situation. This is not benefiting me, because I love myself. So, and it comes in with my spoken word as well. I have different poems. I have a poem now that I perform when I do different events, and it's called Kings and Queens. And once I was out of that abusive relationship and I started to get back into my poetry more heavily and I started performing, I would have people in my circle constantly calling me a queen. And mind you, at that time, I was out of my abusive relationship, but I had started dancing. I had started stripping at a strip club. And I felt uncomfortable being called queen. I would go to these events and I would go places where people had known me in the past as just a poet, as someone who had put out 2 albums, that had toured in, Philadelphia, New York City, performed in Florida, performed to all these different places. And when they were calling me a queen, I felt so uncomfortable, and I didn't like being called queen. And I listened to a lecture with KRS-One, and he talks about how when you call someone a name, when you give someone a name like that, like queen or God, they either have to rise to that or denounce it. And I started to cry as soon as I heard him say that, as soon as that came out of his mouth, because I started to realize what had happened. What made me get out of that environment of stripping, get out of that environment of being around people who judged me just because of the way I looked and what I could give them, was because the people outside of that environment that I would go to on my days off and hang out with, they were calling me queen. And it was making me feel so uncomfortable that I had no choice but to rise myself. I had to pick myself out of the gutter, out of selling my body, out of being around abusive men and just situations that were not good for me. So I hope I'm making sense and I'm not just rambling, but that is my story, and that's why I feel there are a lot of people who don't understand the difference between love and pain, is because they don't understand the love within themselves. And that's why I believe it's very important that when we interact with each other, we call each other queens, and we call each other kings, and we call each other by our purpose. I call you a life coach. That's what God has called you to be. So Ivy, the life coach, every time someone says that, they are putting love into your life. They are speaking life into you, and they are speaking love into you. So that's the journey that I am on right now. That is basically what my next spoken word album is going to be about. It's going to be about love, self-love, and how we need to rise to the occasion of giving each other love.
So, quick question. Was there ever a time when you was being hit or beat that it hit you during that period that this is not love? Was there ever a point in your essence that made you recognize this is not natural?
I don't think it ever was a point where, when he was hitting me, where I ever thought it wasn't love. There was a point where he hit me so bad that he hit me with a boot, and there was blood everywhere, and my lips were busted, and I ran out the house, and I was barefoot. And that was an awakening point for me, because my instinct was to go to my mom's house, but I didn't want her to see her child like that. I didn't want her to see me abused and just battered like that, because I didn't know what it would do to her mentally. I think the point actually came to me when I realized it wasn't love is when he totally just disregarded me and left me. I was still trying. This man had went to prison, and I was still trying to hold on to him and to still salvage what I thought was love, what I thought was a relationship, what I thought was a life that I was going to build with this person. And I was still trying to hold on to it. And he went to prison and ended up in prison, leaving me for another woman. Totally disregarding me. And I was still living in a house that we shared together, apartment that we shared together, but he had totally moved on. Because at that point I started to get my life back on track. I started working for my mother. I started getting my family back in my life. So I wasn't following his rules anymore. I don't think I truly understood that wasn't love until I was totally out of the situation. I got a job in the casino, a regular 9 to 5, and then that's when I started looking back on my life, and I started, taking time for myself. I started getting back into prayer and meditation, and I started really, thinking to myself, there's no way that was love. It might have been his version of what he thought it was, because I also started to think about how he was raised, not making excuses. But I read a book, it was called Finding Your Soulmate by Susan Frederick. And it sounds like it's all about love, but it talks about the different life experiences we had and how we have more than one soulmate, and these people are put in our lives. They're agreements that we made with them before we even reached Earth to help us push and fulfill our divine purpose. And it made me start looking at him different. And I talked to his mother, and I learned about how he was raised and the things that his father exposed him to. He was, at a very young age, he was exposed to pimping. He was exposed to women being beat. So in his mind, that was normal. That was how life was supposed to go. That is love. Hitting your woman, that's showing that you care about her, you love her. In his mind, I'm not saying that that's right, but in his mind, that's the way he was raised. And that's how I was able, once I learned his background and I read that book, I was able to forgive him and move on.
Go ahead and begin to
work on myself.
Now, you said one key thing, normal, the key word, normal. When y'all first met, how did you feel about yourself? Before y'all met, how did you feel about yourself?
Well, I thought that, and this is how I feel like a lot of females, I will always speak on myself. I thought at the time that I felt good about myself. But when I met him, a year prior, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So I was in and out of the hospital. Crohn's disease is a stomach disease. It affects the way you digest food. So I was diagnosed with that. I was in and out of the hospital. I was actually a supervisor at the casino. I overlooked table games. So I had my own place. I had my own car. I had the normal things that a 20-something-year-old has that's on their own. I was doing good. I was partying. And then I was diagnosed with that. I had to take a lot of time off from work. I was in and out of the hospital. I ended up losing my job. After I lost my job, next I lost my place. I had to move in with my mom. That situation didn't work out. I ended up being homeless. And I ended up, living on couch to couch, living in my car, and just going through that. So I think by the time I had met him, I didn't realize how low my self-esteem was. I had lost everything. I had even lost friends.
So do you feel like you was at a vulnerable state and he caught you at a vulnerable state?